I'm not sure how anyone expected the outcome of last week's impeachment trial to have been any different from what it was. The accomplices to the crime don't usually turn on the ringleader if there are no repercussions for them sticking with it. And there will be no repercussions for Trump's accomplices in Congress who went along with the lie that spurred the fascist mob into storming the Capitol to try to stop an election from being stolen from Trump that just was not. So nobody should be surprised that Republican senators did not vote to impeach him, coming just 10 votes short of the 60 needed to get the deed done. And of course, it's also true that no matter what kind of case the Democrats put on or what charges they base the article of impeachment on, we still think that seditious conspiracy would have been far more appropriate than focusing on the speech on January 6th as the incitement of the insurrection. But I still don't think they would have had the Republican votes to convict Trump. The political futures of too many Republicans rely on continued fealty to Trump, and they are quite simply more concerned about keeping their jobs and their power than they are about morals and character and all that traditional Christian-y stuff that they've been lying about all these years. They don't care about that stuff. Trump's base is largely intact, probably emboldened even more now that Teflon Don has beat a second conviction of high crimes and misdemeanors as president of the United States. And in all this, politicians, pundits, and media talking heads are asking, how did it get this bad? How did the Republican Party devolve into a cabal of cultists loyal not only to Trump and his destructive, hateful, inhumane ideas and policies, but also to the conspiracy theories that he is at the center of, that also plays a huge role in the fascist attack he encouraged, and that have even propelled people like Marjorie Taylor Greene to Congress? Well, first, the GOP has been the party of destructive, hateful, inhumane ideas and policies since the Southern strategy, at least. And honestly, the Democrats have too. They've just been more polite about it. So Trump didn't bring some new dynamic to the party in that regard. He was just more blatant and in your face about it. But then, if people really want to know how QAnon became such a force, I can't help but think back to the whole Pizzagate fiasco. And I can't help but sit here and think how people really believed that a pedophile ring was being run out of a pizza parlor in Washington, D.C., where children were being held in a dungeon under Comet Ping Pong Pizza, a little pizza restaurant in Northwest D.C., so powerful Democrats could abuse them. Now, I know that sounds unhinged, but people believed it, and they still do. It all started with the WikiLeaks emails of Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta. In an 8-year-old email, James Alefantis, who is the owner of Comet Ping Pong, asked Podesta about having a fundraiser at his pizza place. In others, Podesta talked about getting cheese pizza. Seems innocuous enough, you get cheese pizza from a pizza parlor, but on internet message boards, anonymous users started saying that cheese pizza was code for child pornography, and that Comet Pizza was the site of a vast Democratic child sex ring. Alex Jones and other far-right personalities picked up the bait, and before you knew it, Pizzagate went viral. But it wasn't just far-right folks online railing against the Democrats in Pizzagate. This bizarre conspiracy made the rounds among progressive circles as well, drawing some of them into the ranks of the far right over their shared disdain for the Democratic Party, which, given the hatred of Bernie Sanders and progressives and even Black Lives Matter that the Podesta emails exposed, was and still is completely justified, but also over this bizarre story of a Democrat-run pedophile ring. Now, I unfriended quite a few so-called progressives on social media for sharing and supporting this story, and I have to tell you, I was shocked by how easily people were taken in by it. And that Pizzagate thing, these accusations whipped people into a frenzy. And not just online either. Edgar Madison Welch drove 350 miles from Salisbury, North Carolina, to Comet Ping Pong Pizza in Northwest D.C. to deal with this so-called pedo ring run by evil Democrats. In a cell phone video he recorded on his way to D.C., he said to his two daughters back home, quote, "I can't let you grow up in a world that is so corrupted by evil without at least standing up for you and for other children just like you." Welch walked into the restaurant on December 4th, 2016, armed with a loaded automatic rifle, an AK-47, and a handgun on his hip, with the intention of raiding the pedo ring to stand up against a corrupt system that kidnaps, tortures, and rapes babies and children in our own backyard. After searching the restaurant for this dungeon child prison and finding none, Welch surrendered to the police who were outside waiting for him. "I came to D.C. with the intent of helping people I believed were in dire need of assistance," he wrote later in a letter to the judge in his case. "It was never my intention to harm or frighten innocent lives, but I realize now just how foolish and reckless my decision was." Welch was sentenced to 4 years in prison in June of 2017, but on October 28, 2017, someone calling himself Q and claiming to be a high-ranking intelligence officer began posting on 4chan that not only was there a child pedophile ring run by Democrats, but also claimed that satanic pedophiles controlled not only Comet Pizza, but the world, drinking children's blood to stay young. Q promised that Trump and other government insiders would bring them to justice. And just like that, the Pizzagate conspiracy not only grew, but was given a leader in Donald Trump. Now, of course, Trump would never have been convicted over a conspiracy that he didn't start. But Pizzagate propelled one man to drive 350 miles to shoot up a pizza parlor to free allegedly imprisoned children, and that conspiracy grew and helped fuel the January 6th fascist insurrection, along with Trump's actions, words, and rhetoric. But it's interesting that the same people were not and are not interested in addressing issues of racist police abuse, systemic racism, poverty, inequality, or any of the real-life problems that affect real-life children, especially little Black and brown and indigenous children. Regardless of what happens with Trump and his supporters and the Republican Party, this needs to be a lesson we should never, ever forget. Follow Luke Mon Nation on patreon.com/LukeMonNation for lots of great content.